Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horror Night Oasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Ian. Ian, are you there?
I am here.
How are you this night, sir?
I'm doing quite all right.
Yeah, same here. Just trying to deal with this crazy ass weather. It's pouring down more snow out there after a brief, mild rest earlier today. But here we go, round two or round three. I don't know. But we are here to finish off the month of January. Turns out we actually had another week, so we decided to go like we did the previous week and just pick one. Basically, just pick something random, one of the titles that we chose last time, and just go down the list. And this was uh, this was your second choice, Ian, and reasons we'll get into a little bit later. And but it sounded interesting from the synopsis, and I was really looking forward to checking it out. And we'll get into it here a little bit as well. And also, we got to bring this up is we're going to be starting our month February marathon, um, which we will be. I forgot to get the picture up, but um, we'll save it for February to unveil it, but it's our mainstream or bust roulette, where, as we mentioned previously, we are going to be putting titles, mainstream, and titles that we didn't get a chance to, review because we haven't really done a lot of in theater stuff, and so we decided to go back and try to see if we can pick out a few that slipped by us and we didn't get a chance to cover because of obvious reasons over the show, and then put them up against the other films that passed us by this past year, the public domain horror films. So we have a litany of titles, and we are going to be putting them on a roulette wheel and plan out the month of February. And we will be doing that at the end of tonight's show. So we have that planned. And without further ado, I guess we'll just go ahead and get into our review. And our film of the night is Sweet Meats. And Sweet Meats sort of has a little bit of notoriety to it on the indie circuit because this had some distributors that were very interested in it, mainly Trauma. So Trauma saw this, liked it, bought the rights, and picked it up, and they put it out uh, themselves. And Sweet Meats is about Bobby Sweets, and Bobby is sort of he's a visionary. He has dreams of grandeur, where he wants to be this country music star. He wants his lights up and on the fame and fortune of being a country singer. But sadly, he doesn't have the guts and gusto for it yet. He's nervous when he gets up to sing. He stumbles. They call him Booby Sweats, a nickname, and he just doesn't have the audacity for it yet. And he's always writing and coming up with songs and in the basement of the restaurant, Nick's restaurant, where he works at. And Nick's restaurant is owned by Nick and his family, which is Laddie and Jerry. Laddie is Nick's daughter, who doesn't really like the family business. She sees more potential for it, but her dad's old fashioned and doesn't like change. And Jerry is sort of the the doofus, the dumb character of the family. He's not all there, basically. He's not challenged. He's just stupid. Um, the best way possible to say it. And so Bobby is just he makes the burgers, he cleans up places, and he just, again, he has these dreams. And so it just goes on where Nick wants to basically give Bobby the family business due to the fact that, again, his son's a moron and his daughter is not the most hospitable character. And so we're following Bobby, and something comes up where Laddie decides to get a meat grinder, unbeknownst to her father. She puts it in the
Yeah.
basement, and push comes the shove, literally, and Nick falls into the meat grinder. And that sets up a series of events where Laddie decides, hey, we can change this. We can make it a more spiffy establishment. And they find out that the meat of her father has a particular taste to it, which drives a food critic, praised the restaurant for the particular taste of the meat, which drives more business to the establishment, and these sort of form a deal, Laddie and Bobby, where Laddie basically runs the meat processing part of the restaurant and coming up with food ideas and getting the food, and Bobby becomes the spokesman for the establishment, and he gets a cowboy hat, a new hairdo, and he becomes the he sings, he performs, he makes records, and he puts it out there for the people of the restaurant to enjoy. And that's the general idea of the film and synopsis. And overall, personally, it was fine. Um, it didn't really grab me as much as I kind of thought it would. Not to say it's bad or anything. It was serviceable. I kind of expected a little more from it, in the vein of being a little bit more violent. There's some okay practical effects and gore scenes, um, but not like a film about chopping people up and putting them in a meat grinder and serving them to customers. I kind of expected a little bit more from it. I like the story of Bobby and how he's just this down and out, you know, person, and he just wants to make a name for himself. He doesn't have the gusto. And then finally, with a little push from Laddie and the incident with her father, just kind of puts him over the edge to become this larger than life character. But it just it just didn't have that feel to like really pull you in. Like I liked Laddie. I thought that the actress portraying her really gave it her all, and I really enjoyed that character arc of Laddie. Um, but again, and Jeff was it? No, it was Jerry. Jerry, I mean, his sayings and euphemisms and all that stuff was ridiculous because he's supposed, he's sort of like Doofy in like Scary Movie, where he's just like the ridiculous like sayings and antics and stuff like that. Instead of a vacuum cleaner, it's bananas. Um, and just a bunch of like Jerry also likes he helps Bobby out with the songs as well, and so he always likes to help write songs and using like the keyboard. And again, it is a musical. I forgot to mention that. So every so often, the film has a musical number where it's sort of like a performance act, and doesn't really come off like a full on like musical number. It's more of just a musical performance on the stage, or if Bobby's like performing in front of patrons that are getting mutilated. Um, and like I said, it's a fine watch. It just didn't really pull me in as much as I kind of hoped it would. The story's good for what it is. I like the predicaments that the characters were involved in, each one. it just didn't have that pizzazz to really bring it home. It needed to be more like the story's solid, but it didn't have that like energy to it. Um, and that's kind of the one thing that kind of hampered uh, my viewing experience because like it kept this rather sort of monotonous, monotone pace um, throughout, where it's just like it's slow moving, and then a musical number, and then it just didn't really keep a good pace. And like for what it could have been, because there's a mid-credit sequence, the very first one, and like where it goes crazy over the top with like splatter, and it's like, man, if you had that like early on, that would have been like what you kind of wanted out of this, where it's just like sort of over the top practical effects, pulling intestines out. Like there's hinted at that, like there's getting tongues pulled out and eyes pulled out, but it's not nothing like full on in your face, like that mid credit scene of just like full on gore. And it needed some of that zaniness and energy to it in that, with the death metal band throughout the beginning, throughout the rest of the most of the film needed sort of that kinetic energy. But I'll let you go in and then we'll go back and forth.
All right. Yeah. No. I completely agree with what you said. Like, I enjoyed watching it. It was fun. It was, a little zany at times, and but most of the deaths happened off screen. Well, every once in a while we'll get to see them put a body part or something into the meat grinder. But I was kind of hoping for more. Like, that's just what I was feeling. I felt like, especially for it being like a trauma movie or, trauma backed movie, that it would be a little bit more over the top or, a little bit more heavier with the violence. Not like overhanded, but like, just a little bit more than what we got. Like I felt like, I mean, there was way less gore in it than that game show movie we recently watched. Like I felt like, yeah, I was hoping for something like that. Now, I mean, we did get to see a lot of blood splatter and stuff like that, but the whole overall of like story of just how it got started, it was fine. It did its job. I mean, I didn't hate it. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting, but I do think that that it just wasn't enough. Like it could have been more.
Yeah. It just has this like playful attitude throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. And I was expecting it to be like a full on musical because like there is a difference between a musical and a movie with music, because that, I was kind of expecting them to start like singing like Sweeney Todd kind of stuff, but it was just a musical number of him.
It's just like the song was like you related to that specific thing that just happened.
Yeah, and it was a live performance instead of just like a person busting out in song and dance. So I'm not really too disappointed by that. That's kind of what I was thinking was the case. The way when I read it was about a country music star, and I'm like, okay, it's probably just a movie with music in it instead of just like them singing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm just now, this is a commentary of what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the poster, and there's music notes on the knife, and I did not see that until just now. That's a nice little detail.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's fine.
It sort of takes me back to something like Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, but like mixed with
Yeah.
like a cannibal. Well, I wouldn't say cannibal movie, but like Blood Diner or 100 Bloody Acres mixed with Walk Hard. You know, just like it's not the it's been there done that type concept where you have cannibal diner, like serving people to customers, but it just has that more sort of, I wouldn't really say quirky, but I guess it's like it just has that off humor, but it felt like the jokes just weren't landing a lot of the way. I wouldn't really say they're corny either, but it just felt, again, just that
I don't
off
know. That
kilter.
opening scene was pretty corny.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely corny. You had to get
It was so gross.
I need the masher.
You said corny, and that image just popped right in my head. I was like, ugh. It was it was kind of funny. I just kept thinking of this one episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog, where they go into a diner and they're served people-shaped meat by a pig, and that was the image I kept getting this whole time, because when they were wearing the pig mask, that's all I could think of.
Yeah,
but
yeah, like I said, I liked Letty's character arc, and like how she was like a manipulative in nature to Bobby, and just like kept pulling the strings and manipulating him, and just to get what he wanted, which to be the singer and the country star. There's like one gag, like, how many records did we sell? Oh, we sold 5. I'm famous.
Yeah,
there's just like it's sort of like gleeful, where it's sort of like a giddy sort of atmosphere, where, like, again, it's just some of the jokes just don't really land, in my opinion. I mean, to me, like, again, comedy's hard pressed on me unless it's like the most obscene act imaginable. Then I die laughing.
yeah.
I mean, Ian's been there firsthand, witnessing some of the ridiculous things that just start me going. But like this, like, it was, like I said, it's fine for what it is, but just don't go in expecting anything like super violent. I mean, there is some decent practical effects. There's some body parts, like, as Ian mentioned, like body parts being thrown into the meat grinder, like a torso, some legs. Then, like, when he is doing the performing down in the basement, with Letty in the pig getup, in the pig mask and the butcher's outfit, she's like coming out and getting eyeballs and tongues, and like throwing, like holding the tongue out into another person's face, and just like taunting the patrons that are mainly like people that she doesn't like or are out of towners, just to keep the meat train going. And then, of course, like, there's a character arc with Jerry that comes in later on in the film, and Jerry's antics as well, because he's like doesn't know what he's talking about in his just antics in general with Bobby. And it's like, again, it's fine. It's just not exactly what you would kind of expect for a trauma picked up, released, cannibal feeding people to patrons movie. I mean, there's more of it's more about the bonding and the relationship between Letty and Bobby, where Letty kind of, again, uses him just to get her way. And like, he's like, there's this one part where, like, there's the 3 cheerleaders, and like they're all over Bobby, and like she comes along and like puts her hand on top of his and counts to 3 seconds, and like, you're my boyfriend now, I'm your girlfriend. And then the 3 cheerleaders like, why don't you take us back and show us your meat? And then she takes him and puts him into the employees only locker, or the janitor's closet and has sex with him like quick, and then later on like, oh, you're you're gonna have a baby now, so it's so she's always like one step ahead using Bobby just to get her
Yeah.
way. And so like again, I liked her character arc and just like her mentality. And again, I thought the actress did a good job with her performance. But yeah, it's just like when it comes to like the whole violence aspect and like it sort of more splattery, it could have used more of that like it did in the mid credit scene. Like if it kept that sort of tone of just like going crazy and pulling out intestines and wrapping around another person's neck and just that's just over the top sort of blood diner sort of tone. Like I thought it would have been a little bit more energetic and fun. Sort of kept your attention more. And again, I didn't mind the relationship aspect of the film, but it definitely needed a little bit more of an edge to it, where it felt more like just a musical number in general. But it was again, it's fine. It wasn't anything spectacular. It just wasn't as energetic and bloody. Well, again, it had some blood, but just not as fun in the kill departments as I would have liked. But
Yeah.
what else you got, Ian?
I don't think there's a whole lot. I mean, there wasn't. I mean, while there was a lot going on in the movie, I kind of don't feel like there was a lot to the movie. I mean, it was just country song, somebody getting murdered, country song, and it
Yeah,
kind of just repeated itself.
yeah, and it's told in a storybook manner because it has an opening scene where we learn. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but it's like the history of Bobby and how the business came to be, and it's told in chapters.
Yeah.
And I should preface that as well. So
Yeah, no, you're fine. I mean, like I think personally, like they left it completely open for a sequel if they wanted to. And I feel like a sequel could really help um you know give us what we had wanted from the first movie, because this was all about them getting started, and I kind of hope they if they do a sequel that we get a little bit more, because I mean this is a nice little world, nice little setup. We got the possibility for one, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. But it's fine. It was a good movie. It was, if you don't like, if you're not like a big hyper violent kind of person, but you like horror movies, this is a pretty tame movie that I think a lot of people could watch without needing the hyper gore. But Travis and I like a little bit more gore than the average casual viewer. So we'll always champion for a little bit more blood and guts.
yeah, if it's done tastefully, like again, like I said, like that the middle sequence is like what that film should have been through like the beginning, throughout the whole thing, just like having that fun, energetic, like she comes up and she like butcher knives the arms off and the blood sprays on the other crew, band members, and like where was that earlier?
Yeah.
It's just like it's sort of that German splatter, where it's just like German SOV, where you cut an arm off and just blood spews everywhere, and it's just like it had, and the intestines getting pulled out and wrapped around the guy's neck. It just had that again. What makes those like German SOV movies sort of notable? But yeah, like I said, as Ian mentioned, it's fine for what it is. Just not exactly what I kind of thought, but it
Yeah,
wasn't terrible. But I think we run the gamut on sweet meats. There's not really much else we can get into. I mean,
I agree.
So let's just leave it at that and call that a show. Well, for our review portion of the show. And now we get into our fun for what's going to come up for the rest of February. As mentioned in the beginning, our mainstream or bust roulette. Ian, let's get that wheel up there. And as I mentioned, we have a bunch of mainstream stuff, a bunch of public domain titles, and we'll probably be adding and taking away a few as the month progresses. But at the moment, this is our list and our wheel of titles, and whatever it lands on will be our opening show for our mainstream or bust roulette. So, Ian, whenever you're ready, let's give the wheel a spin.
All right.
Oh boy. Well, it's about time.
All right.
So our opening film for our mainstream or bust marathon is Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare.
All
So
right.
we're off to the races.
Okay.
But I think we've been wanting to see that one, so it's a good opener.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's gonna be a fun movie.
We shall see. But that is going to do it for tonight's show. We got everything planned for our next show. So, Ian, as always, it's great talking with you. Take care of the family and stay safe with this weather, with this next snowfall. I don't know what's going to happen, but we will be here to continue on our journey of watching all these horror movies. So we appreciate everyone for listening, and we will see you next time for our mainstream or bust roulette marathon here on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night.